Welcome back, and thanks for joining us. Here at the channel, we love checking out old tractors as well as new tractors, and today we're going to be turning the clock back 100 years. We're going to be breaking down all the top tractors that were available on the market a century ago. So with that intro out of the way, let's get into the video. In the early 1900s, farmers primarily relied on horses to complete their farming tasks. As the years would pass, steam engine tractors would become available for farmers as an alternative option to horses. However, many farmers would find these too pricey, as well as big and bulky, and wouldn't be suitable for their farming needs. One factor that pushed along the need for the engineering of a tractor that the everyday farmer could own was the onset of World War I. Many of the farm kids would leave working in the fields to fight in the trenches. This would create a shortage of help for many farmers, and would need something to replace it. Countless companies would begin work on trying to get a tractor with their name on it out the door and to farmers. And by the time we'd make it to 1924, we'd have a few options for the modern day farmer. So let's break down the top tractors available 100 years ago. Up first, we have the International Harvester Farmall. This tractor is often credited as being the first commercially successful row crop tractor. Produced in Chicago, Illinois, these tractors would be released in 1924 and run to 1932. They'd be equipped with a 4-cylinder gasoline engine that produced roughly 13 horsepower at the drawbar and 20 at the belt. These would be rated as a 2-plow tractor and would feature a hand start in the front of the machine. Weighing in at nearly 4,000 pounds, these were definitely some heavy machines for the day. They would go on to be nicknamed the Farmall Regular and would have more than 134,000 produced. One cool fact about these is they had a rare variant called the Fairway model. This was made for golf courses and featured different style steel wheels. These machines would go on to be replaced by the F12s, F20s, and F30s. At number 2, we have the Cletrac W12-20. This Cleveland-produced crawler tractor was built from 1919 to 1932. It featured a 1-speed transmission that was powered by a 4-cylinder kerosene engine. These tractors seen most of their use in the vineyards of California. Up next, we have another tractor released in 1924. This is the J.I. Case 2545. This thing would roll down the assembly line in Racine, Wisconsin for 4 years. This one would be powered by a 4-cylinder kerosene hand-start engine, and it really shined when it came to running belt-required implements. With a top RPM of 850, it would claim 45 horsepower at the belt and 25 at the drawbar, making this a 4-plow tractor. I included this next tractor just because I came across it and thought it was cool. With a weight of 5,000 pounds, this heavyweight half-track is the Avery 1525. This tractor would come in at 25 horsepower, and with a unique look, it also features 3 exhaust pipes. At number 5, we have the Fordson F. With over 750,000 of these tractors produced, it's no surprise that this one makes the list. The reason Henry Ford created Fordson and didn't name it the Ford Tractor Company was that name was already in use by a company out of Minnesota. The company was initially called Henry Ford and Son, but it was later condensed to Fordson. There'd be 2 different engines installed in these machines, one being the Ford 4-cylinder distillate engine and the Hercules 4-cylinder distillate engine. At the drawbar, these machines would only claim 10 horsepower, but still would give you the option to pull a 2-bottom plow. They'd weigh in at roughly 3,000 pounds and have a 3-speed transmission. Over 95% of these tractors would be built in America, but there would be about 7,000 that were produced in a Ford factory in Ireland. Number 6 brings us to Appleton, Wisconsin for what could be one of the biggest on this list. This is the Eagle Manufacturing H45. This is another one that specializes in running belt pulley implements. They'd use a 2-cylinder kerosene engine that would pump out nearly 45 horsepower at the belt. It'd be rated at only 450 RPMs, but what made this one interesting is it had a very short stroke in the engine. It'd be a very compact engine with an 8.5-inch bore and just a 1-inch stroke. One thing about this tractor that's kind of neat is they have the radiator pointed sideways and a fan running off a belt to keep it clean. Number 7 is going to bring us an Alice Chalmers. This is the 2035. This standard tractor would be built between 1922 and 1930 and have a belt horsepower of 35. Hence, giving it the 35 in the model. It'd feature a 2-speed transmission with a top speed of 3 miles an hour. Number 8 brings us to a tractor produced in Sioux City, Iowa. Produced by Wetmore, this model 1225 would be produced between 1919 and 1938. It'd be a 2-plow tractor, coming in at roughly 12 horsepower. There'd be 3 different 4-cylinder kerosene engines used in this machine over its run, a Wheatley, Ruttenburg, and a Waukesha. This machine would be the most aesthetically stylish out of all the ones we've looked at so far, but you'd pay a hefty price for it, coming in at roughly $2,500 in the 1920s. This was an expensive machine. Next up, we have the Twin City 1220, and you can really start to see a trend setting in on these older tractors where the drawbar horsepower and the belt horsepower are in the model number. These would be fitted with a 340 cubic inch 4-cylinder kerosene engine that featured a dual cam and 16 valves. This one would weigh in at 5,000 pounds and have a 2-speed transmission with a top speed of 3 miles an hour. Twin City would produce nearly 10,000 of these tractors. They would also go on to copy this tractor, but double the size, giving us the Twin City 2035. Number 10 brings us the Minneapolis 1730A. This tractor was produced in Hoskins, Minnesota, and ran from 1918 to 1928. At the time, Minneapolis was a part of the Minneapolis Threshing Machine Company. This is one of the 3 companies that in 1929 would go on to form Minneapolis Moline. Another company that was a part of that merger was the Minneapolis Steel and Machinery Company, which was the same company that built the Twin City tractors that we talked about earlier. These Minneapolis 1730As would weigh in at 6,100 pounds, being a stocky, beefy little tractor. Number 11 brings us the John Deere unstyled Model D. The Model D would go on to have the longest production run out of any John Deere tractor, running all the way to 1953. But for now, we're just going to be focusing on the unstyled version of this, produced from 1923 to 1939. The original price of this tractor was $1,000 in 1924. Over their run from the 20s to the 30s, there'd be over 70,000 of these Model Ds produced. They'd be equipped with a 2-cylinder all-fuel engine with 15 horsepower at the drawbar and 27 at the belt. Weighing in at just over 4,000 pounds, these tractors would be able to handle a 3-bottom plow. For a bonus tractor, the Waterloo Boy Model N, which finished up its production run in 1924. After John Deere purchased the Waterloo Engine Company in 1918, this would be one of the first ones they'd be selling. Another cool fact about the Waterloo Boy N was it was the very first tractor to be tested at the University of Nebraska's tractor test program. Number 12 brings us the Wallace OK 1527, another tractor produced in Racine, Wisconsin. This one would have ties to J.I. Case. This would be Case's son-in-law, Henry Wallace, who took over as president of the J.L. Case Plow Works in 1891. From what he learned working on plows, Wallace went on to create his own tractor, and in 1919 he merged it with the Case Plow Works. The Model OK was set up to be a lightweight tractor as well as cost-effective for farmers. By the time 1928 would roll around, the company would be sold to Massey Harris, who would go on to keep manufacturing these tractors for a few more years. Up next, we have the Holt 2-ton. This crawler tractor can also be referred to as the T35 or the Holt 1525. This machine would feature a 4-cylinder gasoline engine that would put out roughly 25 horsepower. This 2-ton would be built from 1921 to 1925, and it was in 1925 where Holt and Caterpillar would merge together. This would lead us to the Caterpillar 2-ton, which would be an updated version of the original Holt design. As we look back on a time where tractors began to emerge as the favorite over horses, it's interesting to see how far we've come in just 100 years. So I'm curious, if you were a farmer in 1924, which one of these tractors would you go out and buy to try and feed your family? Let me know down in the comments, as well as let me know if there's any other tractors that were available in 1924 that I missed. If you enjoyed today's video and don't mind subscribing, it really helps the channel grow and makes videos like this possible. With that out of the way, I want to thank you guys for watching another tractor research and history video. We'll catch you in the next one.